Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello. We're getting ready to go live. Got it. Okay. Got it. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's see if my player works or not. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna have to restart the player. And do. This page is accessing your camera microphone, and I know that. And this page is okay. Let's see. I'm gonna restart this thing. It's not wanting to. We're gonna go live in 2 minutes. I'm so prepared that just getting this ready. So today we're gonna be talking about ketamine therapy, um, a new hope for mental health. Okay, let me go ahead. Hi, Dr. Kumar. I'm restarting the player. I'm gonna invite you to speak. How are you? It's been so long. Hi.
Yes, Tanya, I'm here. Sorry. All right, it's 1:30.
Give me a
Yeah.
second. I had to restart my player. I just updated my streaming laptop. I only have a laptop that just streams. It doesn't do anything else.
Oh
So
my goodness.
give me 2 seconds. Yeah, because when I have other thing running, it messes up the live stream.
Okay.
How you
Yeah,
been?
doing good. So, how have you been? Long time.
Uh, I'm good. I'm just publishing. I'm writing a lot of stuff. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out why, and I can't hear myself on here.
Okay.
Um,
My mic is on.
how you been? There we go.
All right, cool. So, we want to talk about ketamine therapy, right?
Give me 1 second.
Okay. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, I'm going to go live now.
Okay.
And everything looks good. Okay, I'm going to go live now. Okay.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, we are live. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you on the space today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, today, welcome everybody. This is our short health spaces. This is just a recording because it's going to go in with the story that I just finished publishing. Ketamine therapy, a new hope for mental health. And today I have Dr. Kumar here with us, and he has been utilizing ketamine for a while in his practice, and he'll share some of his data and what his thoughts are. And also, I wanted to touch base on the recent article on the Wall Street Journal talking about some startups that are allowing patients to get ketamine shipped to them, and also the J&J new ketamine nasal spray. And what's the difference with that and all that compared to going to a doctor, going into a medical environment and getting a ketamine therapy?
Yep. All right, let's jump right in. So, when it comes to mental health issues, in the traditional medical model, we have a lot to desire. I mean, the big breakthroughs were the SSRI group of drugs, and most of us who have had experience in that have found how difficult it is for patients to get the therapeutic effect with these medications. Sometimes takes weeks if it works at all, and sometimes it doesn't. So there's a lot of times when these patients may be on medications but have absolutely no effect, and they continue to suffer through. So ketamine has been a big breakthrough for at least a few years, and it became mainstream once FDA approved the J&J's nasal spray. So it's been an off-label use for depression till then. So the nasal spray. So let's talk about the history of ketamine. Ketamine has been used forever as an anesthetic for emergency pain management, especially during the Vietnam War, because the beauty about ketamine was it would kill the pain without suppressing the respiratory system, right? So if in the field somebody got a shot of morphine, the higher the dose of morphine, you not only kill the pain, but the patient's respiratory rate decreases. So that can lead to a lot of issues. So ketamine was a major breakthrough in achieving pain management as an emergency measure for those who were wounded in the battlefields. And then what was discovered was many of these patients, after they recovered from whatever they had been, were on ketamine, found out that their mental health had improved. So that was the first sign that a specific dose would cause an anesthetic effect, but at a much lower dose would have major benefits in terms of mental health issues. What specifically are we talking about mental health issues? So the main thing is depression that has been resistant to a couple of medications. Now, obviously, those are the guidelines from the FDA. And now, there's a lot of off-label use, as I said earlier. Um, and there are several ways of doing the ketamine. There's an IV version of doing ketamine. There is the nasal spray of using ketamine. There are subcutaneous or intramuscular injections that are given. Um, but the key here is this: self-administering ketamine, just like any other medications, is fraught with issues. Number one, it's the dosage. I mean, is it the right medication for you? For example, where should you not use ketamine? Ketamine should not be used in somebody who has had a history of, for example, hypertension, uncontrolled hypertension, because the blood pressure can go through the roof. That is something that you do not want to encourage. Somebody who's pregnant, we don't know what the effects on the growing baby is. So, unfortunately, if there's a woman out there who's not aware that she's pregnant, that could be a disaster. So, it's difficult to justify unless people are living in some remote corner of the world where they have no access to medical care, and they have no other choice of managing their mental health issues. Um, I don't see any reason why patients should seek expert opinion and have their care taken care of, under their guidance, because there's a lot of variabilities that can go on. Things can go wrong too, while during treatment. For example, some patients that I've had, all of a sudden are running towards an anxiety creating situation while they are under ketamine. So the way I regulate it is, sit down and kind of allow them to experience that, knowing fully well that I'm there monitoring their pulse rate and their blood pressure and all these other things to make sure that I have other drugs available to kind of counteract some of those issues that may pop up. For example, IV Ativan, if that's what is needed to kind of mellow them down. So this should be treated like any other medications. So the issue with and the way I prefer doing ketamine is through IV. Why? It gives us better control compared to a nasal spray, where, in my opinion, I've tried it out on a couple of patients, the absorption is kind of erratic. It's difficult to judge uh, the dose and its connection to symptom relief. It's so difficult for me to kind of figure out because there are some sprays that I give and patients hardly feel any effect, and other times because there's probably a lot to do with absorption through the nasal passages. So that's one issue. The other methods, the subcutaneous and intramuscular injections. So the problem there is once it's given, you can't take it back. You can't control it. So you got to be ready with countermeasures if things do go out of hand. So in my opinion, I think we are still a long way off from having patients self-administer at home, unless you have some kind of a medical backup that is close by. I would suggest that patients seek not just any regular doc who, but somebody who's trained in this area, who's had experience in this area, because you really don't want a bad outcome. Um, when the benefits are so good if done right. So the frequency, the dose, so you can get that through nobody else but a professional, a medical professional. So
Dr. Kumar, so
yeah.
so in your professional opinion, with some of your patients, like when do they feel that instantly
Oh my
after
God.
therapy, or is it like a couple of
Absolutely.
therapy?
It's absolutely instantaneous. I mean, they do feel groggy by the time they get through the whole process, but the effects are seen within a few hours, and they feel the difference as they walk out to the door. I get them to stay in my clinic for about half an hour to an hour and have somebody else drive them home, so that way I can monitor them, I can talk to them, I can I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist by any stretch of the imagination, but it's good to have somebody listen to them and their experience, if they, or even have them journal their experience so they can kind of monitor their progress before I let them go. And generally, the effects last for at least a few weeks. So there is always a need for some kind of a maintenance protocol. My patients with uncontrolled depression, when they come to me, I generally suggest to them between 6 to 8 sessions within 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So which means about 1 or 2 sessions a week for about 3 to 4 weeks. I think that will probably give them a long-term management of their depression symptoms, and they can probably wean them off their medications if that's what they've been on. And then maybe, again, it's always personalized. Some of them may need to come back, 3 months out or 6 months out. So there's always a maintenance program that's involved. I mean, never forget, when we do ketamine or when we are managing patients with these kind of medical or mental health issues, never forget the gut-brain connection, which means the gut microbiome has to be taken care of. Address their addiction issues, because a lot of times addiction and mental health issues go hand in hand. So, and you really have to sit down and chat with the patients about these addiction issues. That's where I step in with whatever that is needed to help their addiction issues. That could be, Suboxone or NAD IV, that can be combined with IV ketamine. I mean, I'm a big proponent of acupuncture, and recently, as I was telling you, I'm getting big into ozone therapy, and I think it's going to be the next major big breakthrough for most difficult medical conditions across the board, whether it's mental health, physical health, or psychological health, whatever. I think ozone therapy is going to be a big breakthrough. We'll talk more about that in the subsequent discussions. So word of caution on those patients who are thinking about getting it done at home, um, because, like I said, it is a medicine, it is a drug, and should be treated with respect. We don't want you to hurt yourself. But the effects are dramatic, and especially in those patients with depression who come in with suicidal ideation. This is probably the only drug that changes that dramatically. There's no other medication on the planet that I believe can switch off that suicidal ideation so quickly. I mean, it is dramatic. So
And they
it
say they're
does
saying that, like,
save
because when I did it,
lives.
I felt it right away. I mean, the moment I felt it. Like it was an incredible. Like I've never been so happy and so like acceptance, because I think I was going through some tough times with my mother-in-law, taking care of her, and
Yeah,
she was passing, she was dying of cancer, and it was hard for me.
yeah,
And just doing that one session, I felt my brain to just I feel so much balance.
yeah.
And then I was thinking of more of, now with a lot of different patients, especially long COVID, people who have anxiety. There's so many things going on today. I mean, we could talk about mental health with depression and everything, but also there's other factors too that causes depression. Like a lot of people are coming out of this whole crazy pandemic,
Oh, yeah,
and they're having anxiety. I mean, I had anxiety going into a public. I mean, I literally just went to a wedding recently, and I had at first I did, but then I was like, I'm gonna be okay.
yeah.
Have you been utilizing any ketamine for your long term COVID
Well,
patients?
I tried it on myself a couple of weeks ago because I just wanted to see how what it does for me. And I had my niece, she's a physician, so I had her monitor me, kind of sit beside me, and my experience was, um, and this major dissociative feeling, like it was like an out of body experience, as if I was flying around on the moon somehow and watching myself on Earth. It was the most weirdest experience, but whatever. Listen, as physicians, we face burnout. I mean, day in and day out. There's such a huge epidemic of suicide among physicians. But I have found my way out, doing what I do and the way that I do things. But this is something that we should strongly consider for people with burnout issues, long COVID issues, mental health issues. Again, not because we still don't understand the underlying cause of the long COVID stuff. I mean, people are still coming out with what exactly is causing it, so that way we can treat it appropriately. But at least this will help tide over this phase where we're still learning. My philosophy has been, hey, if something works, let's do it, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, and then we'll figure out the why and the how, and a better way of treating them. But right now we can't wait for 3 or 4 years before we start using ketamine or any other form of new treatment to control a condition, when we are losing time and we are losing patients and we are losing people to suffering. I mean, this is something that we can use right now, in whichever way that people prefer. Um, and this is an area that is growing. I mean, a lot of patients come to me with a history of PTSD, especially since the state of Florida has allowed, medical cannabis to be recommended for those patients with PTSD. So what I found is that when these people come in, how long are you going to be on medical cannabis for the rest of your life? I mean, give me a break, right? So yes, we need to have that as a safety net. But my thought process is, if something that can be given in the form of an IV or intramuscular or intranasal, and that can avoid suffering for weeks to months without any other intervention, I think we should go that route rather than being dependent on something that you need to use every day. And my thought process is that medical cannabis is more like a band aid for mental health issues. Um, I mean, I do respect it though. Okay, some people need it, But my suggestion to them is, if you can afford IV ketamine or IV NAD, go that route and use the medical cannabis as a safety net, right? Use that only as you need it. You don't have to create another big medical cannabis industry and support that. I mean, it's okay if you need it, but complement it with other stuff. So that way you get better results without having to depend on just one aspect of the whole thing. So, and
Do
again,
you?
when I've done acupuncture with this, and that's what I generally do when patients come to me for whether it's NAD or ketamine, I use acupuncture, and that really chills them out. Big difference. Yeah, go ahead. You're sorry.
No, I think that's like you said, doing a full body, utilizing different protocol to keep the patient balance, and I think that's the key too, right? When it comes to mental health, it's just always a struggle to be balanced.
Yeah, the thing is this. Uh, we still we still listen, we live in a toxic environment. I'm talking about every form, whether it's material, psychological, chemical, whatever. We live in a toxic world, and no matter where you run, it's going to follow you. That's the bottom line. So the key here is, how do we develop resilience? It's not that we can avoid the toxic environment that we live in, but how do we fend it off? How do we protect ourselves? How do we overcome all that? I think this is just another tool in our tool belt to kind of overcome all those issues. Ultimately it all depends on each one of us to be able to learn to cope. Everything that I'm suggesting is more or less as a safety net, because you need a place to start where you should start healing on your own. We need to get you to that place where we should have you enough tools that you can take off and not be dependent on the medical establishment for your care. Because we just can't afford it. As simple as that. I mean, how many people can afford lifelong care under mental health conditions? When we can take you to a certain level and get you the tools to kind of self care, and off you go. And still come back to us knowing fully well that we will continue to be the safety net forever. But stop being dependent on the medical establishment at a certain point in time.
Well, like with the Johnson and Johnson with the nasal spray, I know there was a compounding pharmacy that was compounding the nasal spray before it was approved.
I'm not sure about that, Tanya, but I did try two patients on the nasal spray, and the whole thing was kind of erratic, because I think we lose control of the bioavailability within that each particular person, because obviously it may depend upon, the absorption through the nasal passages and stuff like that. So, and then I switched them over to the IV. It just gives us much better control. I mean, I can stop it if that's what is needed. I can slow things down. It gives me a lot of flexibility. So that's my
Is
preferred
I'm
route.
surprised that like ketamine is now allowed to be like, because this is from telehealth, right? Because so you go online, you book an appointment, you put down like you're depressed, and then then they sign you up and
That's
you
it.
pay, and
You get
and
it
then
shipped.
they send you some pills, sublingual ones,
Yeah,
lozenges, and then you go from there, and then like
yeah.
no one. I thought ketamine is pretty what's the word, addicting. If
Uh,
you're like give up on,
yes, absolutely. Listen, way back, even now, the this ketamine is a drug of abuse, right? Big time, big time. It's in the club scene, and mainly because of its dissociative experience, and people use it to, after they return from a major night out, so that they can calm down. There's a lot of room for abuse. So the problem is, if the abuse overwhelms the benefits, the clinical benefits, I think the healthcare regulators are going to clamp down on it, and it'll probably make the whole dang thing illegal. I mean, that would be a disaster, and the whole thing will go underground. So that is not the way to do it. I think uh, physicians should need to be responsible. These companies who have these startups, I know they have a mission in mind, but please understand that it's a drug like any other drug. It has to be monitored. It can have a lot of benefits, but one slip up and one death, you're done. you know
especially with blood
so,
pressure.
so yeah, exactly. Hypertension, that's a huge issue. And what if there's an ab reaction during the process when they're in? What are you going to do? And especially if the patient is alone, right? I mean, that
Yeah,
would
that
be
they
a
fall or
disaster.
something. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
like,
whatever it
because
is. But the point is, if without adequate monitoring, I think it's going to be a disaster. Yeah, it will be a disaster, and that's not going to be good for the entire medical profession. That will really throw a bad light on a breakthrough drug that can be so useful, and now we have no choice but to clamp down on it and close it down. That would be a mess. That would be a disservice to humanity.
it's so crazy that it's a Schedule 3 medication, but yet
Yeah.
marijuana is a Schedule 1.
Listen, I've never understood the politics of the whole thing, so I don't even bother. I just go with the flow. That's it.
It's
See
so
what
weird.
works for
Like,
me.
it's like ketamine is, pretty. I've seen people at clubs just go in a K-hole, as they call it. I could never understand
Yeah,
why
yeah,
would you
yeah,
go to a
yeah,
club and take ketamine so that you can just not move and sit on the ground.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. Well, it's time to call it a day. I've got a patient waiting. So very quickly, if I can answer one or two questions and call it quits for the day. Any questions?
Brent, did you want to ask a question? Oh, no, he's not. I think he's in the middle of a conference. No, I,
Yeah,
I just
sure.
wanted to do this because, I sent you that story I wrote. It was just more of like just to get people to be aware there's other options out there, especially if they're going through like they've tried all type of therapy and it didn't work, and they still have anxiety, and this is something else to try out. But really,
Yeah,
like, you can't just go online, get a telehealth doctor and then go do this, because no matter how old you are, I mean, you never know if you have hypertension, because you never thought about it. But
yeah,
people do suffer from high blood pressure, and
yeah,
just taking something and not really paying attention to your blood pressure, to really your temperature, like there's all kind of things that could go wrong if you
yeah,
were doing this by yourself.
yeah. I mean, my whole thing is, the reason that I do these talks is not because I can explain everything that we know about ketamine therapy or whatever we talk about in half an hour. There's no way. What me and Tanya do.
I just lost you there, Dr. Kumar. You were there, and then now we just lost you. But so the article that I wrote for ketamine therapy, a new hope for mental health, is at socialchats.co. It's on the front page.
Yeah.
And Dr. Kumar, I just lost you. That's why.
No, I'm here.
Okay, so it's about 1:57. I want to go ahead and be mindful of your time before I let you go. Can you tell our listeners how to get a hold of
Yep.
you? And if they wanted to book a consultation, they can go ahead and reach out to you.
Absolutely. So my website is called lifewellmd.com. I have an office in Palm Beach Gardens, Port St. Lucie. My main interest is chronic pain management. I'm a cancer doc, basically. That's my DNA. But I do help patients with pain management, with acupuncture, and so on. Sexual medicine is another passion of mine. And the third part is addiction issues and mental health issues. Not only because it involves my family, which brings my interest in all these issues, but also help my cancer patients in everything that I do and learn. So, and because of that, it's kind of spread to other parts of patient care. And so that's it. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you. And then maybe I'd love for us to do a talk on acupuncture and some of the different things.
Yeah, ozone.
And maybe we can plan a big one, do like a panel. We can have some other acupuncturists
Oh, yeah.
on too.
Yeah.
And then, because I feel like we need to raise more awareness, because people think like, oh, it's acupuncture, it's not going to do anything. And I've seen you at work, so I know it works.
Yeah, I know it works. That's right. And it's amazing. All right. Okay.
Okay, everybody, have a great day. And I'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be talking to Cool Wallet and talking about why it's important to have a hard wallet instead of utilizing the exchange to store all your crypto and NFTs. And again, everyone, have a great day, and we will be back. Bye, Dr. Kumar.
Bye.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.